Hello YouTube and fellow DC comic fans. I'm Kelly One Shot, and this is the Post-Crisis Podcast. And today, we're going to talk about Doomsday Clock number 9, which just came out 2 days ago. Awesome read. If you haven't been reading Doomsday Clock, it's a pretty good time to start reading now, as 9 of the 12 issues, including this one, have finally been released. So there's 3 more. It is going to be a wait before we get those 3 final issues, but I will say the story is really picking up, it's really getting exciting, and finally, our heroes from the DC Comics universe are confronting and have a battle with Dr. Manhattan, and this is kind of what happens so far. The story starts off in different time settings. We see Dr. Manhattan on Mars, and he's understanding and thinking about multiple times and places at the same time because he can understand and comprehend all these different time zones kind of at the same time. He can't really travel forward and backward through time, but he understands what's going to happen in the past, how that affects the future, the ripple effects of that. Though, now that he's in the DC Comics universe, some of his powers might have been changed and altered around a little bit. So if he can travel through time, maybe he's using tachyon particles or something that he learned or gained in the DC Comics universe. Either way, we see him even experiencing the effects of the changes that he has directly caused. He simply moved the Green Lantern 6 inches away from Alan Scott, which caused him to die, not get the Green Lantern, so thus he never formed the Justice Society of America. So we see the ripple effect that this ring is traveling through space, and after he moved the lantern, it's not there anymore because the JSA was never founded, and Alan Scott died and didn't get the Green Lantern. And that was caused by Dr. Manhattan's meddling. We then see that this book is titled Crisis, and we see all these different ships from the Justice League and all of our heroes on these ships traveling towards Mars. We see Big Barda, Mr. Miracle, with Hawkman and Hawkgirl. We see John Stewart, Hal Jordan, Donna Troy, Cyborg, Jessica Cruz. We see Barry Allen, Black Canary, Green Lantern. We see John Jones, we see Mera and Aquaman, and they're all in these different ships. But then we also see like Supergirl and Steel's sister, and a few other people. We see the members of Justice League Dark, essentially, with John Constantine. We even see the Doom Patrol here, which I think is really cool that we see all the members of the Doom Patrol here, that they're even a part of this mission. I think that's kind of DC Comics, like, promoting the Doom Patrol, and I do think that it's a really good show. There's 3 episodes out available on the DC Universe streaming service. It's got Brendan Fraser in it. It's got the dude from Suits, Neil McCaffrey. Maybe that was his character's name. Either way, it's got a lot of great actors in it. Check out Doom Patrol if you're interested. It's a lot of fun. But either way, back to the comic book. We also see Nightwing and Jason Todd and Katana and Batwoman and Black Lightning and Metamorpho and Halo. It's kind of like the Outsiders and the Bat family with Barbara Gordon, which also shows us that Dick Grayson is going to be back in his regular Nightwing suit. Barbara Gordon's back in her classic Batgirl suit, so that's pretty awesome. And the family's there with them. We see the Shazam families traveling with Stargirl, and we even see that the old Charleston characters are there as well, like Blue Beetle, Captain Atom, The Question, which is pretty cool because the members of the Watchmen are actually based on these characters directly. Owlman is based on Blue Beetle, Dr. Manhattan is based on Dr. Atom, Rorschach is based on The Question, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of cool that they're here and in this story as well. We then see Dr. Manhattan, and he's talking about that this tachyon cloud kind of clouded his judgment. It happened 5 days ago, and since then it has clouded his judgment on the near past and the near future, so he can't see beyond, or those, he can see beyond those, but he can't see like the near future, and he can't see the near past. He can see the far future and the far past, but he can't understand the events of what's happening around him right now. So his senses are kind of similar to what they are for us, because he can't see beyond that, so he can't learn what's actually happening here. He's being confused too in this whole situation. So then we see what happened at the end of book number 8, where Firestorm exploded in Moscow, and we see Batman on the ground. He's very hurt from the explosion. We see Ronnie Raymond and the Professor Stein on the ground because they were hurt from the explosion and separated from the Firestorm being. We see Superman down on the ground, and then Superman's body is being brought to the Hall of Justice because he's unconscious, he's not awake. And then we also see at the same time that police are surrounding the Hall of Justice because of this, Superman kind of picked a side in the last issue on a political stance with the Superman theory about metahumans, which say that all metahumans are like government experiments. The origin of them was from the United States government experimenting to try to get an upper hand on global wars and global events. So that's the Superman theory. So basically what happened is Superman seemingly picked a side when he chose to defend Firestorm, and because of that, the president's cabinet is trying to tell him, sir, Superman kind of made a decision here. You have to kind of go against metahumans and make a stance. You can't side behind him anymore. And the president's like, well, there goes our greatest weapon of defense, Superman. And eventually, he does cowardice turn on Superman and kind of blames all the metahumans, which explains why the police are outside of the Hall of Justice, because seemingly what we're dealing with is similar to what happened in The Watchmen, where superheroes are being asked to reveal their identities and that they can't be superheroes anymore. I mean, that's even in Disney's Incredibles, even, it was a story for that. But either way, so because the president got a report about Firestorm and all of this stuff, we actually see Rorschach number 2 in the streets as everything's in peril, and he has a sign on him that says, you see what you want to see. He tried to show Batman that some of this stuff was happening and trying to show him some of the strings, and Batman threw him in an insane asylum instead of listening to him, which was kind of foolish on Batman's part. We then actually see that Wonder Woman is expected to go in front of the UN and talk about a peace deal, because she kind of represents metahumans on like the UN level, which is pretty cool. She's kind of like Charles Xavier a little bit. She's representing all the metahumans as she is one herself, but she's stationary in the island of Themyscira because that's kind of a safe zone for her to live because of all this hostility that's happening right now against metahumans, which, like I said, reminds me of Watchmen a little bit, but only because Dr. Manhattan was the only one actually in that universe who had superpowers. But just that kind of story where you have to reveal who you are if you're a meta, and you have to go and seek asylum or you're going to get arrested by the government or whatever have you. So then we actually go to Bruce Wayne's house, where Alfred is checking on Bruce. Bruce is finally waking up. He wakes up before Superman, which either because he's Batman or because he was further away from the explosion than Superman was. But he woke up, he's wondering what happened, where everybody is. Alfred kind of catches him up that the Justice League took Superman to the Hall of Justice. They took Ronnie Raymond and Professor Stein with them as well, and they kind of suspect that Firestorm wasn't really to blame. Like, he wasn't the source, origin, energy from the explosion that happened at the end of the issue. And they've kind of determined that, and they're now seeking out the source of that energy, which is coming from Mars. So we see that Ronnie Raymond and Professor Stein are on one of the ships that is traveling through space to Mars, where Dr. Manhattan is, with pretty much all the members of the Justice League are on that ship. So they're pretty much, mostly all of them are off Earth except for Superman, who's knocked out, Wonder Woman, Batman, and Green Arrow is also on Earth as well. And I'm sure a few other heroes are also on Earth too. Most of them are on space on their way to Mars. So Batman is getting pissed. He says that he wants to send a message out to them that they're all being played, that the man that they're going after on Mars might not be the actual person who did this, that there might be someone else pulling the strings beyond that, and that they're all being played to go out there. So he's trying to send a message out to Mars and intercept them. We actually then go to Mars, where all the ships are finally landing down, and we see the Green Lantern Corps, and they see this evil person's lair that they're going after, because they're assuming that this is a villain. They know that Dr. Manhattan, or whoever they're about to approach, is manipulating things and trying to go after Superman and trying to make Superman look bad and attack him. So they're there. They actually find a picture of Dr. Manhattan and his wife before he turned into Dr. Manhattan. And then all of a sudden, we actually go to Lois Lane at the Hall of Justice, where Lex Luthor comes into the room, and Lois seemingly thinks that Lex is here to kill and finish off Superman in his moment of weakness, but Lex actually says that he's not here to do that, and he's here to help. We then go back to the planet, where we see now that the heroes of the Justice League and the Green Lantern Corps and the Doom Patrol and everybody out there, the Shazam family, have encountered Dr. Manhattan. The Green Lanterns throw an aura of energy around the planet of Mars so that there is no escape for this person that they're going to confront right now. And Bruce is still trying to send out a message. He wants to know what's going on. We then see that it's Martian Manhunter who kind of leads this group of people, obviously, because he's led the Justice League before, and he's very smart, and he's very knowledgeable. He's very old, and he can read inside of people's minds as well. And so he kind of wants to know what's going on here with this foe that stands before them, Dr. Manhattan. The Shazam family actually makes a joke like, oh, he's just kind of letting it all hang out, because Dr. Manhattan is pretty naked and his junk is just kind of hanging out there. It's not drawn here in the book, not like Batman and Batman Damned. None of that here, but John Jones kind of questions him. He says he doesn't really understand what's going on, and Dr. Manhattan is kind of being very dismissive. He's talking like he doesn't even care that the entire Justice League is standing there in front of him. He is talking to Ronnie Raymond, but like 7 minutes in the future, because the Tachyons are messing with him a little bit, where his perception of where exactly he is right now is off a little bit. All of a sudden, Guy Gardner confronts Dr. Manhattan, and he tells him like, hey, if you're messing with Superman, you gotta understand the people who are Superman's friends, us, and what we have all done. We took down Darkseid, we took down the Anti-Monitor, we took down the Sinestro Corps, Doomsday, Batman from alternate universes, we took down Brainiac and several other intergalactic threats, and we're ready to fully face you. We then see Martian Manhunter says that that's enough, Guy, you gotta calm down, and that he's actually confused right now, Dr. Manhattan, because Martian Manhunter is reading into his mind. And then Manhattan then tells John that he's only confused at the moment, and that he knows in about 5 seconds Martian Manhunter is going to tell everybody his one final vision of Superman. And Dr. Manhattan foresees a vision where he's on Mars alone with Superman. His cape is tattered, and after that encounter with Superman, there's nothing. Nothing exists. There seems to be just nothing. So he's either wondering, he can't see that because either Superman kills him or Dr. Manhattan kills everything. And he can't see the end result from that because of the tachyon clouds that are clouding his judgment. So once they find out about this vision, because Martian Manhunter shares it with the rest of the League, Supergirl then shouts out, so basically, you're worried that Superman's going to kill you, so you're going to try to kill him first. So then all of a sudden, Guy Gardner runs up and smashes Dr. Manhattan down on the ground. Manhattan falls down. Guy thinks that he did anything, but then Manhattan zaps right around him and grabs the source of Guy's energy, his Green Lantern power ring, and Dr. Manhattan is interested about this. He grabs the ring. He saps all the energy out of it. He holds it in his hand, but he also claims that he can't affect this fully the way he can affect other things, which is actually pretty unique. We then see the magic wielders led by John Constantine, Zatanna, we got Etrigan, and they're all shooting their magical spells onto Dr. Manhattan. Manhattan essentially thinks that this is cute. He's like, oh, what you think that you're using as magic is actually scraps from the source of creation. It's energy that is essentially discarded, it's random, it was unaccounted for, it's there, but you kind of found a way to manipulate the scraps, and that surely you, the scraps of society, are the ones who would be able to do this. Which is really like, wow, did you just say that to them? That they're using secondhand scrap science, and that they're secondhand scrap away, throw away characters, which is messed up because I think that they're pretty cool. We then see that he easily gets rid of the magic spell, and he's kind of learning from all the things that are happening here. He's more so entertaining this battle. He's not even in like full rage mode, attack mode whatsoever. He's interested. He's learning. He's having fun with discovering these new power sources. He also says that Ronnie Raymond is the strongest individual, one of the strongest individuals that he's encountered since he came to this universe to begin with. We then go back to Lex Luthor and Lois Lane with Superman unconscious, and again Lex tells Lois that he's here to help, that he's the one who sent Lois the flash drive that had the video and the footage of all these heroes that seemingly never were, the Justice Society of America and other heroes as well, who were seemingly erased from this source event, which we believe is Dr. Manhattan. And as proof, Lex then says to, well, not as proof, he then asked Lois Lane if she's ever heard of Wally West. Because of that, Wally came back after this. At the beginning of DC Rebirth, when this all started, Wally came back. He knows of the people who have messed with the timeline. Wally has experienced this. He kind of seen the manipulation of time. And when he came back at the beginning of Rebirth, he told Flash and he told Batman. So very few people know. Iris West knows, and Wallace West, the current Kid Flash, knows about it. A few other people know as well, but essentially, like Zoom and stuff like that, know. Eobard Thawne knows. A few other characters know who Wally is, but not everybody knows who Wally is, or that he's from a timeline that exists before this, a timeline pre the altering, which happened before New 52. because before the New 52, there was an alternating in time, which happened during the Flashpoint paradox, and seemingly it wasn't Flash who caused that, but it was Dr. Manhattan. And that all ties into this, as this story has been essentially ongoing since the very beginning of Rebirth, but even before that, it kind of started with Flashpoint. So, yeah, that's all happening there. He asked about Wally West. Lois probably doesn't know who Wally West is. We then see Batman going through different bat suits. He throws on his classic one that's all tattered, and he seems to want to go to Mars to help his friends and to tell them that they're going after the wrong person. Even when the Green Lantern initially landed on the planet, which is a point that I haven't really heard anybody talk about too much, but the Green Lantern, I believe it was Hal Jordan, says that this is definitely where the energy source from that explosion came from. Like, it matches the energy source that's here on Mars, but my ring can't sense any fingerprints. Which shows me that obviously it's got to be Ozymandias, like at the end of Watchmen, where he's using the same energy from Dr. Manhattan to manipulate these events and to make it look like Dr. Manhattan is doing things and make it look like he's the one who set it up by masking it, by using his energy. But the Green Lantern even said, I can't see the fingerprints, but the energy matches up. That was a little earlier in the book. I haven't heard really anybody talk about it in that fashion. I do think that it's pretty cool because Bruce is going to try to go there and deal with the fight. And then during this fight, Ronnie Raymond tries to attack Dr. Manhattan because he's like, well, I'm one of the strongest people you've ever met, so I'm going to attack you and I'm going to come at you. Then Manhattan kind of shoots an image into Ronnie's brain of 7 years ago, right before the big explosion that gave Ronnie his powers, and that he's trying to question and show Ronnie that everything that he thinks he knows might be wrong. We actually see Ronnie walk into a room where Professor Stein is. Professor Stein's on the phone. He's talking about metahumans. He's talking about essentially recreating the situations that gave other metahumans powers, and that the bigger the accident, the better and grander the powers, seemingly. That he understands the risks. He sees on a computer a picture of Metamorpho, who is one of the people who is linked to the Superman theory, which says that the government is creating metahumans, which seemingly Dr. Stein is doing here right now. And Dr. Stein even says that he's been looking for a candidate, someone who needs a parental figure, and he reminds him of his son, and he kind of matches well together. And that's Ronnie Raymond. He's been watching Ronnie for years as a potential match, and that he actually is not going to be an accident. Stein has been grooming Ronnie and planning this event for him to become Firestorm. And that is a revelation to Ronnie and a little bit of a retcon of the origin, which I think is a very interesting twist because it's going to add conflict between those two, because seemingly Stein caused this now. It's not an accident anymore. And maybe now the Superman theory is true, or at least to some degree. So then we go back to the battle. Firestorm attacks Manhattan. Green Arrow, Canary attack Manhattan. He's interested by this. Big Barda attacks him. The Green Lantern, Superman, Shazam, and Stargirl attack him with magic. He's kind of just sitting there and dealing with it. Then Captain Atom stands up and he says, forget Superman. The last thing this guy's going to see is Captain Atom, which is pretty cool because Captain Atom's powers are actually very similar to Dr. Manhattan's, because Dr. Manhattan is essentially a copycat character of Captain Atom to begin with, because when DC Comics acquired the Charleston comic characters, which one of them was Captain Atom, like I mentioned earlier, Alan Moore wanted to write a book about those Charleston characters, but DC was in the process of acquiring it or whatever, and he didn't want to give it fully to, so Moore instead created the Watchmen and Dr. Manhattan. He is based on Captain Atom, so it's cool that these two are battling it out here. Captain Atom seemingly destroys Dr. Manhattan, which is pretty cool because there's this big blue energy destruction, and there's seemingly nothing left, and everybody got messed up. We then go back to the UN, where Wonder Woman is about to give this grand speech on peace. We actually do see Ozymandias watching this speech. In the background, he's got all these computer screens. He presses this button, and then we actually go back. We see that Batman's message failed to send to the Justice League, so it was probably Ozymandias blocking that message because he doesn't want the League to know what Batman knows, and he knows that Batman knows that. So we actually go back to the fight, where then Manhattan is reconstructing his DNA. He's coming right back to life, and it doesn't even matter what they do because he's Dr. Manhattan and he's reforming himself. Then meanwhile, back at the UN, we see a big crash, and in comes Black Adam, Gigante, and the Creeper. And Black Adam has essentially been offering refuge in Kadak for refugee metahumans, or metahumans are being persecuted and attacked by the government under this whole fear of metahumans. And so he says that he's actually here to make a move and an opportunity because all the Earth's heroes are on Mars. He knows it. And Black Adam is essentially like a Magneto type character where he is an advocate for metas because he's like super old. He's one of the first metas from way back when. He got his powers from the Wizard, just like Billy Batson did, but long time ago. So he's kind of like a Magneto character, and he's advocating for metahumans, and he's taking them in because even the Creeper isn't a bad guy. He's actually a good guy, and even in the future he ends up a good guy. It's Jack Ryder, the reporter, which I believe was earlier in Doomsday Clock story, reporting on the Superman theory. So this is all cool. This happened at the end. I think we're going to see and learn more about this in the next 3 issues. I do think that obviously Ozymandias has to have something to do with this, and Batman is probably going to reach out to Rorschach, and we're probably going to see something with the Trinity, because it was no coincidence that Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman were all left on the planet, and that they're the only few, and then Green Arrow as well. So I'm wondering what's going to happen. I'm wondering if we're going to see the JSA, if maybe Wally West makes a return in this, because he was mentioned directly, and maybe we find out some answers that we've been wanting to know for a long time. I want to see Jay Garrick come back because he is a member of the JSA, and I want to see things put back right way, but also keep some of the things that have developed in this new timeline as well. I think that there needs to be a merging of everything that's great. Bring the JSA back finally, including Jay Garrick. Bring Wally West back. If you're reading Heroes in Crisis and you just read The Price, you know there's a lot of interesting things going on there, where there might be 2 different Wally West body. One that's the dead one that we see that's 5 days too old, whatever that means. We're going to find out more in Heroes in Crisis number 7, I'm hoping for. There's a lot of great other books that came out this week. Some standouts obviously include Snyder's Justice League, which is amazing. Batman came out, which is a return to the Nightmare story arc, which is a pretty cool story that also involves the Question. And yeah, what else came out? I mean, there's a lot of great books. Young Justice number 3, where we find out where Connor Kent has been this whole time. Yeah, so check out those issues. There's a few other great books that came out as well. Either way, that's my brief discussion and explanation of Doomsday Clock number 9. I'm Kelly One Shot. Take care, have a great day, and goodbye!